Hi there, Glocal citizens. Welcome back to the podcast that inspires a borderless mindset around manifesting a new world. I am your host, Florence Adu, coming to you from a May Day here in Ghana. And that is the International Day for Workers, otherwise known as Labor Day in other countries and jurisdictions. Not to be confused with the Labor Day, but I guess it's the same kind of concept. I think it's Australia, the UK, and a few other countries, Canada, that are not celebrating today. But I think most of the other parts of the world are celebrating May Day. So it's been quite a quiet holiday, almost unexpectedly, because May just kind of creeps up on you. And here we are. I am in some ways in a really reminiscent mood because a year ago today, I launched my Future of Work Salon series. And I'm just thinking about being in New York in the loft with, all my really close friends and some new friends, focusing on the future of work. And our topic that day was the future of work around aging. And as I sit through still compiling the series, so stay tuned for that. It's coming later on in May. I continue to just think about how work is being impacted by all of the global changes that we're having. Of course, there's AI and there's capitalism. That's a huge part of the function of being a worker, and part of the reason that there is a Workers' Day to some extent, because people, the workers, had to figure out how do they get recognized and get some kind of recognition for the labor that maybe wasn't always exploited for the gains of those that are rich. And so I'm just in that kind of mood, and I'm happy to be also reminiscent mode because we're doing a flashback forward with a guest that first came on the show about 2 years ago. And I'm so encouraged because at that time we were talking about one of her other projects, Bigger Than Africa. And so I'm happy to welcome her back because she has big news and life changes. And it's just so nice to catch up with Glocal citizens in their new and now. So I'll give you a brief introduction to her, and I'll encourage you to go back to the original episode. And here we go. She is an entrepreneur, editor, and producer who has made her mark through Netflix's Bigger Than Africa and her company, Teoleja Media. She embodies a powerful legacy of determination inspired by her grandmother, who built a successful business and educated 7 children in 1960s Lagos. Yasmina Fagbemi, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah.
Yes.
Time fly.
Yes, it does. It does. So let's do a little bit of review. Tell us again where you're from, where you are currently local, and what is your craft in your words?
Where I'm from, that hasn't changed. I would say French American of African descent. I was born and raised in France, been living in America for 20 plus years, Nigeria and Benin, and right now I'm in New York. Next week I'm heading back to France. I'm going to the Cannes Film Festivals, and I'm also getting ready to do a bit of a transition. I think my time in the US is dwindling down, but I would say that I'm a citizen of the world.
Okay. And how would you describe your craft?
My craft.
Yes.
Actually, I have an answer now that I would say would define the rest of my life, and that has always been in my life. But I'll pretty much say that I am defined by the mission.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter what's happening around me, no matter what the distractions are, my mission is to tell stories that elevate heroes to their rightful places in history. So, and that's through Teoleja, so my media company. I said media because we have 2 divisions. We have the publishing division and the film division.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I would define my craft.
Okay. All right. So tell us about Teoleja. That is the newest development, and since we last spoke, you were working on different projects, and so now you have this new business. So tell us about how it came about, what you're working on, how it's taking you to Cannes. Tell us that story.
So I'm not sure what new means, but Teoleja is definitely a new entity.
Yes.
The core of my work has not changed.
Mm-hmm,
yes.
mm-hmm,
So I think 2 years ago when we spoke, It was about Bigger Than Africa.
Yes.
That was on Netflix. And since then, yes, I do have a new film that I'm very excited about,
Hmm.
The Soul of Africa. So we're gonna have a private viewing in Cannes on May 19th at the Pavillon Afrique. So The Soul of Africa is really it's a feature, it's a documentary about how Abrahamic religion impacted African traditions. And it's directed and written by Gabriel Suleika, who happened also to be my business partner in Shodeja. And Shodeja is a Yoruba name, actually. It means in Yoruba, unbreakable. So basically, this is what we do. We do have a promise to the African continent to make sure that we are telling our stories and telling the stories of African unknown African heroes, and making sure that their stories are being told truthfully, not from the hunter perspective, but from the lion. And I'm very lucky because Gabriel is an historian, even though that he's a director, he's a filmmaker and a writer, but he's also an historian who studied African, transatlantic African history. So a lot of all our work, specifically the books that we are publishing and that we are adapting into films, are historical novel based on true story.
And so give us a synopsis of the story or the hero that you're elevating in The Soul of Africa, if that is one of the goals or aims of that film.
The Soul of Africa is a documentary, so it's not an adaptation from any of our books, but it is definitely a subject that we decided to tackle because I'm not sure if you know, religion is one of the most debated topic on social media. So you have the Muslim, you have the Christians, and then you have the people who don't believe in anything. And really, the angle of the film is not that we pro-Christian, pro-Islam, or pro-Buddhist. It's just to understand that before colonization, before slavery, we have our own traditions. We had our own belief. And it's important to understand that they were there, and they're still here. And what are the impacts of those external civilization into our traditions? So this is really what the film of The Soul of Africa is tackling, I would say. And I would like to think that it's going to generate conversation and a different perspective about really who we are as a culture, and not to be, what is the best way to say it without being insulting or people feeling insulted? But the goal is to give the audience, the opportunity to watch the film and to say, okay, I am Christian, but it doesn't mean that I need to reject my culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's really, that's really what we were trying to achieve. So that's what the documentary of The Soul of Africa is. But to answer your question about heroes, we have one of our books, novel, which is My Soul is a Witness. So people tend, or Voleur in French, is about this woman. Her name is Awa. And it's a true story,
Mm-hmm.
who was, I'm giving a very short summary of what the story is, but really, I would say in one sentence, I'm sure few people know that in Auschwitz, there were Black people. So,
Wow. No.
yes.
Yeah.
So that's really what the story is about. And
Mm-hmm.
I will just summarize it in one sentence: is the Shoah through the eyes of an African woman. Her husband was called in 1941 to fight in France, with France, against the German, ended up being captured. She didn't hear from him, went to look for him in Paris. She ended up at the Mosque of Paris. Very few people know that the Mosque of Paris during World War II was hiding or sheltering Jewish children. And she was hosted by a Jewish family. She was a Muslim woman. Her name was Awa, wearing the yellow star, and she ended up in Auschwitz and find her husband there because the Nazi realized that the life expectancy of black in Auschwitz, when they were captured, they didn't kill them. They were using them to do the dirty work. So that's what the soul, my soul is a witness is, and it's the Shoah through the eyes of an African woman. And this is a true story. That was romanticized, but that's a true story.
So I want to backtrack. When I was mentioning maybe heroes in the soul of Africa, in terms of individuals that were able to tell that story, right? Because you did have to find individuals that were along the line would have been heroic figures in even defining traditional, I'm assuming.
Yes,
Yeah.
because what happened is the backdrop of the soul of Africa is the black deities or divinity.
Mm-hmm,
In
mm-hmm,
that it's a festival that's been taking place for more than 10 years.
mm-hmm.
So for 10 days, so we got to film very interesting scene and the festivals. So we
Mm-hmm.
had, deities from all over Africa, deities from Guadeloupe. So that's why. And we interviewed some king who just wants to keep the traditions going.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds interesting. So we'll put that in the show notes. If you're in Cannes, you can. Is it an invitation only?
Yeah, it's a
You
private one,
private.
but
Okay.
we will have a screening. It's gonna be in theater. That's what we're working on.
Okay.
So they just need to follow us, and we'll as soon as it is out, we'll let them know.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. So now going to My Soul as Witness, because I'm now my interest is piqued. How did you find that story? Because that's, working with historians, or I mean, you have a business partner that is a historian, but that particular story, how did it jump out to you?
Well, believe it or not, Gabriel's grandfather was a tirailleur, and he did
Ah,
World War I.
uh-huh.
So Gabriel Suleka was born in Senegal. He's half Senegalese, half Egyptian.
Okay.
His grandfather fought in World War I, and his father fought in World War II. And it just happened that our family was the neighbor. We lived in the
Wow.
neighborhood. So
Okay.
that was a story that, first of all, Gabriel was told by his grandfather that in Auschwitz there were black people. And he was very, doubtful because he was,
Mm-hmm.
I went to the French system. I'm not sure how is the American system here. Trust me, we have a history lesson, and history lesson really learn everything about World War II.
Right.
It's,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that the Schindler List is something that you probably watched.
Yeah.
I've never, ever heard that there were black people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So he heard the story, and in the 80s, he actually ended up meeting one of the survival soldier who was in Auschwitz.
Mm-hmm.
So he shared a couple of things, but the family of ours husband, late husband, because they died,
Mm-hmm.
told the story that they never came back, but that it's known that she left and she went.
Okay.
So that's how we find out about the story. So I just want to be very clear to your audience. Once the Nazi knew that they lost the war, they destroyed almost everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even though that there was the Nuremberg conference trials where people were leaving testimony, this is one of the testimony that was left.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it just happened that he was someone living in Dakar in that neighborhood, and that's how we got to get the news. So once he found that out, he did research, and then based on the research, he wrote the book. But
Okay.
it's still a historical novel.
Sure.
But I'm happy and very proud to say that we are the first publishing house to release a book about the Shoah with African. It's a love story that is being adapted into a film.
Got it. Got it. So I want to understand more about, you mentioned that you're a global citizen and you spent a lot of time in the US, also in France, and you're contemplating a new place. So I usually ask why the where, how did you come to be living, working, and playing where you currently are? We already know that. We heard that last time. What is going to be the why the where of your new next? How are you thinking about a relocation or this transition to another geographical place of home?
This is how I'm looking at it. My work is taking me to places. So these past 2 years, I've been spending less time here in the US
Mm-hmm.
because of my work.
Mm-hmm.
We're filming mostly in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just lucky because I hold several
Passports.
passports.
Yeah.
I'm multilingual. And most importantly, I just think that, I wanted to say not to get too political. Of course, we're going to get political. You cannot leave today and not be political.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know,
Mm-hmm.
since November 7, I would say that, things have changed drastically.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny because I feel that a few years ago, America was a place where creatively there was so much, and I just think that is losing it. So that's, I don't think that I am inspired to do what I want to do. And I do think that the core of my work is centered around the continent. And I just think that this is where I am needed the most.
So are you saying that's where you will probably relocate to, somewhere on the continent?
Yeah, I think that, yeah,
Uh-huh.
definitely. I would definitely be spending time there.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know. You see, this is interesting because even I'm hearing myself speaking.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure what relocating means in 2025. I think that, it's not about going somewhere else, building another house and start a new life. I think COVID has been a big part of it. I think it's giving yourself now the freedom to explore different experiences and to tell yourself that you're not attached to a place. So the way me, I'm attached, I said that at the beginning of the conversation, I am attached to the mission of what Yuleja is to my work. And this is what's driving my choices. And right now, my choices are not driven here where I currently am, which is the US and which is New York. But New York is still home to me. And you hear me. I said New York. I didn't say Oklahoma. I didn't say Florida.
Right.
I
Right.
said New York.
Sure. It makes a lot of
You know that
sense.
we are different. We are a different breed here.
Yeah. I love that you said that because that is exactly what this podcast is trying to get at is figuring out how you establish citizenship in a place that you can, figure it out, explore, understand, and make yourself this global local person. So I love that. I think you hit it on the head, especially helping people to really kind of reconsider how do I think about this moving, like for myself, I'm even thinking about my next, right? So what's the next place that I want to explore and be? And the things that I value about being somewhere else is the beauty of the place. And so I told myself, living in a place where, I'm just going to be very honest, a lot of West Africa, particularly, well, I said West Africa, particularly Anglophone West Africa, is just simply disorganized. And so all the systems that make for quality of life in terms of the visual experience and actually the functional experience are very challenging. And so when I think about a place that I want to now call a new home, I would love it to be in Africa. I think it definitely must be, but it is a place where I look out where it's beautiful, right? They've kind of solved for the sanitation problems. They've solved for the most part for the road infrastructure problems and that type of thing, which is a difficult treasure hunt. Just to be honest, I've been to this region. So between Ivory Coast, Ghana, Nigeria, Senegal, and I see the difference between the Francophone or those Francophone countries and the
What
Anglophone.
difference do you see? I'm curious to hear from your point of view.
Yeah, well, I kind of speaks to that disorganization. I find that the francophone countries have a little bit better infrastructure. I think in Senegal, the difference to some extent around, finding clean spaces, this is, maybe a TMI kind of thing, but I was never worried about finding a clean public toilet in Senegal, in Dakar. And that is because the majority, much of the population is Muslim. So their toilet culture is that much different, right? And in in Anglophone West Africa, it's, you don't find, maybe in the north you do, but finding, it's always a hit or miss. Like, oh, is it going to be clean? Is it not going to be clean? And literally, even at an event, they have an attendant who's wiping it. I was at so many different places. I realized, I was like, wow, I'm not afraid to, like, experience a toilet in these places. And then it's a small thing seemingly, but it makes a difference. And I'm not going to say there weren't slums in Dakar and things like that where the infrastructure just failed. But for the most part, the road networks were decent for the most part. The thing that made me a little bit less, I initially thought I wanted to relocate to Dakar, but I went and I said, I don't know. And the thing about it was that there were not enough trees.
Yeah, because it's a Sahel. That when you're in Dakar, Senegal is a Sahel.
Yes.
It's
Yeah. Well,
it's not.
Dakar in particular, right? Because
Yeah.
so I'd need to go to a different city to feel less of the dust, because that was exactly my experience. I was like, oh, it's dusty. And that's not what I'm looking for. Quite interestingly, however, Morocco is dusty as well, but there's this other arid kind of sensibility about it. And aside from what I experienced to be, I want to say, I can't call it racism, but I felt definitely maybe it is a little bit of racism. I didn't feel like Morocco could be a place for me as a black African, because they don't identify themselves as Black Africans. Loved it. It is that same kind of Sahelish, I guess the upper Sahel kind of experience, but I definitely could feel the color line there.
Well, here's the thing. I'm one of the few who transition easily between the francophone and the anglophone
Ah, yes. Yes.
because of my
Yes.
background.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
This is what I'm going to tell the audience. I didn't grow up in Africa, but I've been going there on vacation since I was young, and I've been spending time there for sure.
Yep.
In the past 5 years, we should all, especially us from the diaspora, remove ourselves from this fairy tale of what Africa is or could be or should be. That we need to go there and just understand that we are in a context, we have expectations, they have theirs, and it's a matter of how to find a balance.
Mm-hmm.
There's a huge difference between Anglophone and Francophone. Huge. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I will do business with an Anglophone any time of the day. With a Francophone, it's a different story. As far
Mm.
as cleanliness, I'm not sure. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't do public but anything public. I don't do it, even in the US. But I would just say you in Ghana. For me, Ghana is actually one of the most modern, maybe Kenya, South Africa, obviously,
Yeah.
places. I just think that we need to be very careful in terms of what our expectations are and be very clear in terms of what we are trying to achieve when we decide to move somewhere. So I'm just going back to how I feel. And, it took me a while to make that decision. I'm comfortable moving anywhere in Africa at this point of my life. But
Mm.
what makes a difference is what is the type of community that I'm building around me that will allow me to also have a life,
Yeah.
because you mentioning Morocco, and this, of course, this is also a big conversation online. Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, those people, they don't consider themselves African.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I'm trying to detach myself from this conversation because I think this is a total distraction. Because if we as a continent understood our history,
Yes.
how our history intertwined centuries ago, a century ago, 40 years ago, I think we will stop behaving this way. I think that there's such a miseducation in terms of what we know that we are being distracted by behaviors.
Mm.
And so I'm trying to be very good with that because this is what we do. My business partner is an historian. And I'm just saying that if people were educating themselves a little bit more, they will understand that who has created that deviceness, And I'm not saying that, if you go to Morocco, you go to Algeria, people will be behaving a certain way toward you because for whatever reason, there's so many uneducated people, but we don't need to go to Morocco to find an educated person. Just being in America, there's plenty of them. By the way, who's running the country? Okay, well, it was just a side note. You see, I'm just trying to, so I always try now because the work that we need to do so we can have a united front. There's so much work to do,
Yes.
so much work to do, Florence,
Yes.
that we should not allow ourselves to be distracted. And our tagline is knowing your history is an act of resistance.
Mm. Mm.
And that's what it is.
It is indeed.
That is what it is.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So once we make that decision that we want to move away, we want to leave a certain place, and we start saying, "Oh, this is how we're supposed to be. That's why I cannot live there," or "This is then it stops us from moving forward." So that's why I was telling you that for me, it's just like an exploration based on what I'm trying to do, and I'm just taking the best of both worlds.
Right. And I think you made a great point about business being a huge driver. So where you can also do the best business. And I think that's another perfect way of thinking about it. I too think of that as I consider where else and what are the market opportunities, et cetera. And so I want to pivot into the process of being a producer, being a media company, and taking a film to a film festival like Cannes. So can you tell us a little bit more about the business side of producing a film that can then be screened in Cannes, and then what the distribution strategy is going to look like moving forward?
So as a producer, my first job is to find money. Otherwise, a film cannot be made. And I'm very proud to say that this film, and this is where we're going with Choleja, is 100% financed by African.
I love it.
I've been spending the last few months, and I'm still continuing doing that, lobbying. This is what my job is, first and foremost, lobbying, sitting with wealthy African businessmen and telling them, okay, you have all this money. Okay, you're buying building, you're investing in oil, you're doing all of that. But you know that culture is a driver to create jobs, but to create also revenue. That's really what has been my work. But and also being in control of our narrative. Because it's almost, for me, doing films is literally, it's political.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think Hollywood has understood that and has been very good at it. And I'm basically trying to explain that to these people who never thought of investing in a film, but when they do, they just know that they're going to lose money.
Mm.
So that's that's my goal. But on the other hand, we need to be able to deliver, and that's what we're trying to do with a qualitative product, a qualitative film. We want to do film that not only are watched by African or in this case, it was in Togo. The producer, the investor is a Togolese. I'm sure he would be happy if I say his name. Is Maître Wilson Bahu. He's the one who put the money because for 20 years, out of his pocket, he's been financing a festival because he loves culture. So as a producer, that's my job. I don't want to go through the institution to try to get money from this institution, Y and Z, because at the end of the day, they may not like the product, so they may not want to put money in it. But if they do, they may want to have an influence on it. And that's what I don't want.
Sure.
So going to Cannes, in our case, the film was not selected officially by the Cannes Film Festival. I've been selected by the Pavillon Afrique.
Okay.
Pavillon Afrique as Cannes is 2%, red carpet, parties, and then you have the official films that have been selected. But 98% of it is business.
Yes.
There's also what's happening on the side, the distribution, all the countries who are there, who are representing their culture. The Pavillon Afrique, we decided strategically, that's something that I wanted to do, to have a small screening with the investor, because the film was filmed in Togo, we probably going to have some government representative to see the film. And then we're going to start submitting the film, we have started already, to the big festivals, and then obviously in theater. So that's the strategy, and also distribution. And that's what we're trying to do.
Okay. I understand. So speaking on distribution, I was looking at something maybe on LinkedIn or something, and the number one distribution platform nowadays for Nollywood films is YouTube. So you have these films that are now, Nigerians are watching YouTube. And so what are your thoughts on how, because also as a storyteller and having a media company, the challenge has been finding platforms that can be monetized that are indigenous. I think that we've had some, and we have Netflix that has come and does whatever deals that they do, but we by and large haven't had a huge amount of the distribution platforms coming to Africa and investing in films, et cetera, et cetera. And so what do you think about YouTube as a distribution platform? Maybe not first run, but what are just your general thoughts?
I think it's great. I think that YouTube is definitely an alternative, and I think that I mean, I'm for. I mean, I run not on a day-to-day, but a communication agency.
Yeah.
And YouTube, all the social media platform, TikTok also, it's an amazing platform, are necessary because it allow other voices to be there. Now, in my experience and conversation that I'm having, what I'm seeing, Gabriel has 30 years of experience in film. He works in Hollywood. There's two parallel worlds. That's how I define it. There is the parallel world of Ryan Coogler, who's just released a film, Sinners, which has, I think, now grows 126 million, I think, or more. And there's the parallel world of smaller production went up in YouTube. So what I'm trying to say is that the challenge today is how to make a film that's going to generate revenues.
Right.
So
bottom line.
That is the bottom line. But to make a film that generates revenues has to be a qualitative film that will be attracted by a global audience. And that is where the challenge is for many African filmmakers. So that's the gap that we need to narrow, because 136 million, this film, I'm using the word, I'm using Sinners because this is the most recent example. I've seen it. I watched 2 days ago. It's an excellent movie, So, but to achieve this level of quality, people say, well, he had money. Okay, fine. You need, you need skills. So this is where we are. I think that there's still a gap between what we're putting out there and what is accessible to the world to watch. But YouTube is there. I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think that we need more African stories out there.
Yeah. Just generally. So speaking of African stories, I always still like to ask about Glocal speak. And so we want to hear what you hear. So I ask you to share a word, a phrase, or a saying that's a meaningful part of your local experience. And in this case, wherever you're feeling local, maybe in your recent travels, and tell us why or how you come to value it as Glocal speak.
The F word will always be my favorite word. The F word. That's the F word. Sadly, the F word. I take it everywhere I go.
Oh, I love it! It says a lot, though. It says so much.
Yeah, the F word, the OMG. I mean, I remember on the set in Togo. That actually will make me mad, and I don't know why it will make me mad. Someone in the team said, "Oh, Yasmina, tu es tellement américaine. You're so American."
Uh-huh.
American? No! And when you say OMG. So, yeah. I don't know if I answer your question, but
yeah. No, that's a great answer. I don't
have a Yoruba thing yet to say, but the OMG and the F word,
those
That's the thing.
go-tos, right? I love it. Got it. Got it. Got it. So let's talk about what's next. So you have what's next for the film, what's next for the company. You mentioned you have two different arms. You have the film arm and the publishing arm. So tell us what's next for Tuleja and you and all those good things.
Well, I mean, what next? So hopefully we're filming in a few months. By the end of
Okay.
the year, we have a romantic comedy that we want to film.
Oh,
And
lovely.
I'm crossing my finger that My Soul is a Witness will start filming in 2026. No, we have a lot going on, but these are the big thing. I mean, obviously there's Ken, there's the romantic comedy, which I hope will attract everyone from the diaspora. It's an amazing story. We just released a new book for the youth,
Oh,
Képri l'Égyptien. It's not in English yet,
okay.
but it's a little story of Képri in Egypt. And yeah, there's many other things that I cannot really
Go
share
into,
with
yeah,
you yet,
sure. No problem.
but that I'm very excited about, So that's really what's happening for us. And
Yeah.
obviously, the whole of Africa that I hope will be in theater this year.
Yeah. So I meant to ask before, but how was the process of filming in Togo in terms of any kind of regulatory, in terms of finding fixers? Like how did you, just kind of as a producer facilitate just getting the production done in another African country? I'm familiar with, teams have come and my co-production partners have done that kind of thing here in Ghana. I'm curious about how it worked for you in Togo.
Let me put it this way. If you can do it in Togo, you can do it anywhere.
Okay.
Let me put it this way. It was not easy. It was, but I love learning. Togo is very new, as it's not like Ghana.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys are very, 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 but Togolese government wants to do film in films and we're going to work with them.
Okay.
But I learned so much. So for me, it's an experience. It's definitely, it was definitely an experience, a good experience, challenging experience. But overall, it was good.
Yeah. How long were you there?
We filmed he was doing the festival.
Okay.
Oh, I was there for 2 months, but
Okay.
we filmed probably for like 3 weeks.
Okay. Got it. Okay. And
So
it was all over the country, or it's a fairly
no, we film in Lomé and we film in Anejo.
Okay.
Anejo is 45 minutes from Lomé.
Yes.
And this is where the Festival des Divinités, this is where it takes place in January, every January actually. And that's during the festival that we filmed.
Okay. Got it. I'm so excited. It just sounds like such a fascinating project, and just looking forward to seeing it and being able to show it to broader African audiences, just in the physical sense, because I think having the idea of dialogue that then helps to propagate the spread of the information and an interest in learning more is so key.
Absolutely. And again, it's really about our traditions are not lost. Our traditions are not, black magic. Our traditions actually are very strong and they're there to protect us and how everything can coexist.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked business and all of this stuff now. And so now we want to know, again, who are you when you're not working? Are you a reader, a watcher, a listener, or what are some of the other things that you like to do in your free time?
Readers, yes.
Okay.
I am a publisher now, and we actually signing new authors.
Okay.
We haven't been able to do it yet, but I try to read a bit what's out there.
So what are some of your favorite latest reads or watches or listens?
Well, I'm not going to lie to you. My favorite reads right now are all the books that we released.
Yeah. Okay. Of course. Why not?
I love historical biography. There's a few that I'm looking into, even for us to adapt. I'm very much reading on TikTok and social media.
Okay.
Absolutely. Obviously, I am very intentional about what I read and watch. I believe that is what happened since November 7. The big, I would say, anchors, journalists are now on social media, So I completely broke from legacy media. I do believe that, TikTok, YouTube have amazing anchors, and one of them is my friend. So I'm going to give her a shout out. She has a channel, Joy Reid.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And the other is also who left MSNBC or CNN.
Yeah.
So I'm following that,
Mm-hmm.
I'm following the real news, the real truth. So that's what I do on my spare time. I box, and I like spending time with my friend and family.
Okay, I love it. Very simple.
Oh yeah, I have a crazy life. So
Yeah, the simple gives you
yeah,
that
simple
rest.
things.
Yes, indeed. Okay, well, Yasmina, this has been awesome catching up again. I know that, you know, the the whole process of being able to establish yourself, even I kind of want to just allude to your name, because your name in the previous episode was Edwards, and now you're embracing your maiden your is it your maiden name or middle name?
No, I'm embracing my maiden name. I've said it because I had to say something. It's about going back to my roots.
Yes.
Fagbemi is my maiden name. It's an African name, and I just decided that that's the name that I wanted to carry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's just a choice. Like everything else, you explore, you're into an exploration, and you're going just with the flow.
Right. But it's a bold step given that you've established your name as, part of your brand. And so to make that
What
change,
is a brand? That's the question.
that's a
I'm not.
good point.
Yeah, what is a
Yeah.
brand?
Yeah.
Because really, you Google me, you find Edwards, you find Fagbemi, but at the end of the day, my brand is what I stand for.
I love it. That's it. Yeah.
I'm super. I, Actually, I've been consistent all my life.
Mm-hmm.
I've just been evolving with projects. Nothing have changed. So being bold is actually staying consistent. And trust me, there's people out there who are not. I've been consistent.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That says it all. Consistency is the bold statement.
Yeah, be
Yes,
consistent.
indeed.
That is
I
bold.
mean, so true. No truer word.
That's the act of resistance,
Yes.
not being distracted.
Yes. It gets you to the end. So we are ending I am, because I'm on the other side, ending my work on the day of workers right now. Before we go, do you want to say any last words? Do you have any last thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Well, thank you. The last word is just follow my work. And for those who are trying to relocate, I mean, it's just about what are you trying to achieve with your own life?
Mm-hmm.
Every bucket may not be met, but at the end of the day, is what are you trying to achieve?
Exactly. That's it. Those are great words. That's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. You can catch us Tuesdays with new episodes at glocalcitizenspod.com or wherever you get your podcast. Please be sure to go back and re-listen to or discover for the first time Yasmina's first episode, which is in March of 2023, and check out their websites, anywhere you can find on social media. That will all be in the show notes. And keep up the good work, folks. Until next time. Bye for now.